Hello there, welcome to the Science Owl Station channel. Today we are going to drift into the deepest, oldest pillow humanity has ever known, the night sky itself. Long before electric lights, before street lamps, even before candles flickered in huts, our ancestors looked up and saw the same patterns we see now. But they didn't see just points of light. They saw stories. They saw a hunter, a bear, a queen, a dragon, all etched in stardust, a celestial storybook rotating slowly above their heads, a nightly lullaby written in light. This was the original screen, the original Netflix, playing the same epic but silent show, season after season, millennium after millennium. And tonight, we're going to read that book together, not with the frantic energy of discovery, but with the slow, heavy-lidded wonder of someone being read to sleep. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like it, tell me in the comments. Where are you right now? Are you in a city with a washed-out sky, or somewhere the stars are still brave enough to shine? What time is it for you? I often record these in the quiet, small hours when the world feels stillest. Wherever you are, let the world slow down for a while. Soften your gaze, let the hum of life around you fade, and gently drift with us into tonight's quiet exploration. Imagine, for a moment, lying on your back on a cool, grassy hill. The earth beneath you is solid, ancient. Above you, the black velvet of space is punctured by countless pinpricks of light. First, it's chaos, a beautiful, sparkling chaos. But if you let your eyes relax, don't try to focus, just let the patterns emerge. They do. It's like a cosmic connect the dots that every human culture, from the deserts of Australia to the fjords of Norway, felt compelled to complete. This universal urge to organize the chaos is, perhaps, our first collective act of science and art combined. The Babylonians did it meticulously, mapping the paths of planets they believed were gods. The Greeks wove their elaborate myths into the fabric of the heavens. Polynesian navigators memorized these star roads to traverse the vast, trackless Pacific. The sky was their GPS, their calendar, their holy text, and their bedtime story. But here's a sleepy fact to cradle your mind. The constellations we see are a complete illusion of perspective. We are looking at a flat, two-dimensional canvas, but the stars in any given constellation are often staggeringly far apart from each other in the vast depth of space. The two stars that might look like a bear's shoulder pads could be hundreds of light years apart, one much closer to us, the other incredibly distant. They have no real relationship. We are the painters, connecting these unrelated dots from our singular, tiny viewpoint on a pale blue dot. It's a shared hallucination across all of human history, a grand, beautiful mistake. Another gentle truth: the stars themselves are not still. They are all moving, sailing through the galaxy at tremendous speeds. But they are so impossibly far away that their motion, called proper motion, is undetectable to the naked eye over a human lifetime. You would need to watch for thousands of years to see the shapes noticeably distort. The Big Dipper, for instance, will look different in 100,000 years. The constellations are slow, glacial paintings in the process of being smeared across the cosmic canvas. But for us, for tonight, they are fixed, constant, eternal, the perfect anchor for a drifting mind. And then there's the light. The twinkle of a star isn't the star itself flickering like a candle. It's our own atmosphere getting in the way. Columns of warm and cool air constantly churn above us, bending the starlight this way and that, causing that familiar, sleepy shimmer. It's the earth breathing, sighing, blurring the sharp edges of the universe. That twinkle is the signature of our own world's activity, a gentle reminder that we are looking out from within a living, moving bubble of air. The farther down a star is toward the horizon, the more atmosphere its light must pass through, and the more it twinkles, sometimes even flashing subtle colors. It's nature's own ambient light show, slow, random, and perfectly soothing. Finally, consider the sheer age of the light landing on your retina. When you look at the star at the tip of the Little Dipper's handle, Polaris, you're seeing light that left that star around the time the Roman Empire was fading. The light from the middle star in Orion's belt embarked on its journey to Earth roughly 1,300 years ago. You are literally looking into the past. Every glance at the night sky is time travel. Your eyes are receiving ancient photons that have traveled across empty, silent space for centuries, just to end their long journey by dissolving in your vision, telling a story that is already over. It's a profoundly peaceful thought. All the drama, the myths, the wars, the loves and losses associated with those stars. Their light is just now arriving, a delayed broadcast of a show whose actors have long since moved on. We are watching the universe's very own, very slow history channel. So let's settle in and turn the page to our first constellation, one of the most famous and relentless figures in the sky, the hunter who never rests. Now, let your gaze drift southward on a winter's night. You'll find him there, impossible to miss, a broad-shouldered, confident figure striding across the celestial sphere. Orion the Hunter. He is perhaps the most universally recognized constellation, a collection of brilliant stars that seem to demand attention. But for all his brilliance, Orion's story is one of eternal, tired pursuit. He is the insomniac of the heavens. The most obvious features are the 3 stars of his belt, aligned in a perfect, slightly slanted row. They are not the brightest stars in the constellation, but their perfect symmetry makes them a celestial landmark. From his belt hangs a fainter line of stars, his sword, and anchoring his form are 4 brilliant stars. Fiery red Betelgeuse at his right shoulder from our view, brilliant blue-white Rigel at his left foot, with Bellatrix and Saiph completing the quadrilateral. But here's the first sleepy detail. Betelgeuse is a dying star. It's a red supergiant, so vast that if placed at the center of our solar system, its surface would extend past the orbit of Jupiter. It's pulsating, breathing its last breaths on a cosmic timescale. Its red hue isn't just for show. It's the glow of a cool, expanded, and tired stellar giant. When you look at it, you are looking at a cosmic ember, a star in its final chapter, flickering irregularly. It could go supernova tonight or in 100,000 years. That gentle, reddish twinkle is the heartbeat of a stellar ending. Orion's myth is a tale of hubris and endless chase. In Greek mythology, Orion was a giant hunter who boasted he could kill every animal on Earth. The Earth goddess Gaia, offended, sent a small but deadly scorpion to defeat him. The scorpion succeeded, stinging Orion on the heel. Both were placed in the sky by the gods, but as a final joke, or perhaps a lesson in tranquility, they were placed on opposite sides of the heavens. As Orion sets in the west, the constellation Scorpius rises in the east. They are forever chasing, forever fleeing, never able to meet. The hunter is perpetually hunted. This celestial dance is mirrored in our seasonal skies. Orion is predominantly a winter constellation. As spring approaches, he appears to tire, sinking lower and lower in the western sky after sunset until he finally disappears, seemingly vanquished by the approaching Scorpius, which dominates the summer night. It's an annual, slow-motion drama of pursuit and retreat, a lullaby of cyclical conflict that never concludes. But let's focus on that sword. Hanging from his belt isn't just a line of stars. One of those fuzzy patches isn't a star at all. It's the Orion Nebula, a stellar nursery. Through a telescope, it's a spectacular cloud of glowing gas and dust. But to the naked eye, it's just a soft, fuzzy speck. Imagine that within that tiny, sleepy blur, new stars and planetary systems are being born right now. Protostars are igniting, swirling disks of dust are coalescing into planets. It's a cosmic cradle, hidden in plain sight on the hunter's hip. The most violent creative process in the universe, star birth, appears to us as a gentle, out-of-focus smudge. It's the universe's way of whispering its secrets, not shouting them. And then there's Rigel, the bright blue foot. Rigel is the opposite of Betelgeuse. It's a blue supergiant, young, hot, and profligate with its energy. It burns its nuclear fuel with a fierce, wasteful intensity that means its life will be short, by stellar standards, and brilliant. The light from Rigel is so energetic it appears blue. So in one figure, we have the cool, dying red ember of Betelgeuse and the hot, young blue flame of Rigel. Orion cradles the entire life cycle of stars within his own body. Birth in the nebula at his waist, vibrant youth in his foot, and impending death in his shoulder. He is a walking stellar biography, a final, slow thought about Orion's belt. Those three stars are known across cultures by different names. To some, they were three kings or three sisters or a fisherman's line. But they also serve as a perfect pointer. A line extended downward through the belt leads to Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky, the loyal dog following his master. A line extended upward leads to Aldebaran, the red eye of Taurus the bull, another target of the hunter's eternal pursuit. So even this simple, straight line is a signpost in the sky, connecting stories. Orion never rests. He is forever hunting the bull, forever followed by his dog, forever fleeing the scorpion. His is a story of perpetual motion, a celestial reminder that even in the quiet night, narratives of chase and tension play out in slow, stellar time. But for now, let's leave the restless hunter and turn to a more cyclical, comforting motion, the slow, endless circling of the bears. Now, let us turn our attention northward, to a motion that is constant, predictable, and profoundly soothing. Here, we find not a hunter, but a pair of bears, tracing endless, silent circles around a fixed point in the heavens. Ursa Major, the great bear, and her smaller companion, Ursa Minor, the little bear. Their story is not one of drama, but of quiet, maternal protection and an eternal, gentle rotation. The clockwork of the night sky. The most famous part of Ursa Major is, of course, the asterism known as the Big Dipper or the Plough. It's not a constellation itself, but a pattern within one, the bear's hindquarters and long tail. That's right, the majestic bear has a comically long, curved tail. Ancient mythographers explained this away by saying the gods, when placing the bear in the sky, stretched its tail out of admiration, or perhaps because celestial bears needed longer handles for our convenience. The 7 bright stars of the Dipper are a comfort, a familiar sight in the northern sky, always present, always circling. And here is a wonderfully drowsy fact. They are our guide to everything else. The 2 stars at the front of the Dipper's bowl, Merak and Dubhe, are famously known as the pointer stars. Draw a line from Merak through Dubhe, extended about 5 times the distance between them, and you will bump right into Polaris, the North Star. It's the sky's most reliable signpost. In a world of change, this simple act of stargazing, following the pointers, feels like a slow, deliberate ritual that always leads to a place of stillness. Polaris itself is the tip of the little bear's tail, the star at the end of the Little Dipper's handle. It's not the brightest star in the sky, but it is the most important for navigation because it sits almost directly above Earth's North Pole. As our planet rotates, all the other stars appear to wheel around this fixed, silent point. Polaris is the pivot, the nail upon which the celestial sphere turns. Watching this rotation over hours, the Dipper swinging around Polaris like the hand of a giant, slow clock, is one of the most meditative experiences in nature. It's a visual proof of the Earth's spin, a 24-hour cycle rendered in star trails, a lullaby of planetary motion. The myth behind these bears is poignant. In one Greek version, the beautiful nymph Callisto was a companion of the virgin goddess Artemis. Zeus, the king of the gods, fell for her, and she bore him a son, Arcas. The jealous goddess Hera transformed Callisto into a bear. Years later, her now-grown son Arcas, while hunting, came upon the bear and did not recognize his mother. To prevent a tragic matricide, Zeus intervened, placing both mother and son in the sky as bears, where they would be safe and immortal. But Hera, in a final act of petty vengeance, persuaded the sea god Oceanus to forbid the bears from ever dipping below the horizon to rest in the cool sea. So they are condemned to circle the pole forever, never setting, never finding respite. It's a story of eternal, tired circling, a mother and son forever bound in a celestial dance, never allowed to sleep. But science adds another layer of gentle intrigue. The stars of the Big Dipper, aside from Dubhe and Alcade, are part of a moving group. They are stellar siblings, born from the same cloud of gas and dust, and they are all drifting together through space in the same general direction. They are a family on a journey, keeping each other company across the light years. Their configuration from our viewpoint will change over hundreds of thousands of years, but for now, they are a fixed family portrait. Furthermore, that familiar Dipper shape is temporary. Because of the individual motions of the stars, in about 50,000 years, the Dipper will have unwound itself. The handle will be more bent, the bowl more distorted. The comforting, familiar saucepan in the sky will slowly morph into something else. Our great-great-grandchildren, thousands of generations removed, will look up and see a different pattern, tell a different story. It's a reminder that even our most constant celestial guides are only constant in the brief flicker of human civilization. A final, soft observation. Locating the Little Dipper is a test of a dark sky and a patient eye. While Polaris is fairly bright, the other stars of Ursa Minor are faint. Finding the complete, Small Dipper shape is like completing a subtle cosmic puzzle. It requires letting your vision relax, accepting the fainter points of light. It's an exercise in perceptual patience, a quiet victory when the full, humble shape of the smaller bear resolves out of the gloom around the steadfast North Star. It feels like discovering a secret kept just for those willing to look slowly and carefully. This pair of bears, then, offers us both grand, sweeping motion and intimate, patient discovery. They are the timekeepers and the guardians of the North, forever turning in a slow, silent waltz around the axis of our world. And now, let's follow a starry path from the tail of the Great Bear, which arcs gracefully across the sky, and let it guide us to a celestial bird in flight. Following the gentle arc of the Big Dipper's handle, we are led away from the northern pivot, drifting across the starry river towards a delicate, cross-shaped pattern. This is Cygnus, the swan, also known as the Northern Cross. It flies along the shimmering band of the Milky Way, as if poised for a long, silent migration down that celestial stream. Of all the constellations, Cygnus has a particularly serene and melancholic beauty, a bird captured in mid-flight, forever gliding on currents of stardust. The most striking feature is its shape, a long vertical cross of bright stars. Deneb, at the top of the cross or the swan's tail, is a luminous supergiant. Its name comes from the Arabic phrase Danab al-Dajaja, meaning the tail of the hen, and what a tail it is. Here is a sleepy, awe-inspiring fact. Deneb is one of the most luminous stars known. While it is about 1,400 light-years away, its intrinsic brightness is staggering. If it were placed as close to us as Sirius, it would cast shadows on Earth and be visible during the day. Its light reaching us tonight began its journey around the time the Roman Empire was consolidating its power. We see it not as a brilliant beacon, but as a steady, soft, first-magnitude point, its true ferocity muted by unimaginable distance. It's a quiet giant. The myth of Cygnus is often tied to music and tragic transformation. One story identifies it as Orpheus, the legendary musician, placed in the sky after his death in the form of his beloved swan. Another tells of Zeus, who transformed himself into a swan to seduce the Queen Leda. But perhaps the most fitting sleepy tale is that of Cygnus, a friend of Phaeton. When Phaeton foolishly lost control of the sun chariot and was struck down by Zeus, Cygnus mourned so profoundly by the river where his friend died that the gods took pity and turned him into a swan, a bird that frequents waterways. His flight along the Milky Way, then, can be seen as an eternal, sorrowful journey along a starry river, a silent elegy written in constellations. But Cygnus offers more than just stories. It is a window. It sits squarely in one of the richest regions of the Milky Way as seen from Earth. On a clear, dark night, looking towards Cygnus is like peering into the soft, cloudy core of our own galaxy. The band of the Milky Way here is wide and detailed, a river of unresolved starlight, dark dust lanes, and glowing nebulae. Through binoculars, this region explodes into a tapestry of star clusters and gaseous clouds. The constellation contains the North America Nebula, a vast cloud of gas that, by a charming cosmic coincidence, resembles the continent. It also holds the Veil Nebula, the magnificent filamentary remnant of a supernova that exploded thousands of years ago. A stellar death shroud, beautiful and ghostly. All this cosmic scenery is framed by the elegant shape of the swan. It's as if the constellation is a graceful picture frame holding the most vibrant and active portrait of our galactic home. There's another curious, gentle fact. Near Deneb lies a famous asterism known as the Summer Triangle, formed by Deneb, Vega in Lyra, and Altair in Aquila. This giant, nearly equilateral triangle dominates the summer and autumn skies. It's not an official constellation, but a star-hop guidepost, so large and obvious that it feels like a foundational piece of the sky's architecture. Cygnus forms one corner of this tranquil, celestial geometry. Within this triangle, using even modest optical aid, you can find the Cocoon Nebula, a place where new stars are being born, wrapped in their cosmic blanket. So within this simple triangle connecting a swan, a lyre, and an eagle lies both stellar death, the veil, and stellar birth, the cocoon. It's a complete, cyclical story contained in a quiet patch of sky. Finally, consider the swan posture. It is often depicted with its long neck stretched forward, wings wide, in a graceful glide. Its path along the Milky Way makes it seem as if it is following the galactic current, a solitary voyager on the ultimate slow journey. There's a deep peace in that image. No frantic flapping, just a steady, eternal glide on the cosmic winds, following the soft glow of the galactic plane towards an unseen horizon. It embodies a sense of direction and calm purpose. As we drift off, we can imagine ourselves on that same gentle current, carried along without effort, surrounded by the soft light of a billion distant suns. And now, let's turn from the gliding swan to a figure of regal, if somewhat precarious, repose. A queen forever bound to her chair, circling the pole in silent, undignified perpetuity. High in the northern sky, not far from the slow-wheeling bears, sits a constellation whose shape is unmistakable. A bright, lopsided W or an M, depending on the time of night and year. This is Cassiopeia, the queen. She is one of the most recognizable patterns, a celestial signature etched in 5 main stars. But her story is one of vanity, punishment, and an eternity of uncomfortable, tumbling rotation. A cosmic reminder to perhaps be a little more humble before bedtime. The 5 principal stars, Skeeter, Calf, Gamma Cassiopeiae, Sejin, and Ruchba, form that distinctive zigzag. Unlike the sprawling forms of some constellations, Cassiopeia is compact and bright, making it easy to find even in moderately light-polluted skies. She sits on the opposite side of Polaris from the Big Dipper. When the Dipper is low, she is high, and vice versa, as if they are 2 counterweights on the great celestial seesaw. Finding her is simple. Draw a line through the front 2 stars of the Big Dipper's bowl, through Polaris, and continue about the same distance. You'll run right into the W. It's another slow, satisfying connection to make in the night sky. Cassiopeia's myth is a classic tale of hubris with sleepy consequences. In Greek mythology, she was the vain queen of Ethiopia, wife of King Cepheus, a neighboring, fainter constellation, and mother of Andromeda. She boasted that her daughter's beauty, or sometimes her own, surpassed that of the Nereids, the sea nymphs. This insult enraged Poseidon, god of the sea, who sent the sea monster Cetus to ravage the coast. The only way to appease the god was to chain Andromeda to a rock as a sacrifice. The entire family drama is written in the stars. Cepheus the king, Cassiopeia the queen, Andromeda the daughter, Perseus the hero who saves her, and Cetus the monster, all arranged in a celestial soap opera. As punishment for her vanity, Cassiopeia was placed in the sky, but with a cruel twist. For half of her orbit around Polaris, she is upside down. The proud queen is forced to spend half of eternity in an undignified, tumbling position, a perpetual celestial blush. This leads to a wonderfully drowsy observation. Because Cassiopeia is circumpolar for many northern observers, never setting, we can watch her slowly rotate around Polaris throughout the night and the year. In the autumn evening, she appears as a clear W, like a throne. By late winter, she has swung around to appear as an M, seemingly toppled over. Watching this slow, inescapable tumble over the months is like watching a very slow-motion comedy of errors. The universe gently reminding us not to take ourselves too seriously over a time frame of millennia. One of the stars in the W Gamma Cassiopeiae is a fascinating variable star. It's a hot, rapidly spinning star that literally flings material from its equator, forming a disk. As a result, its brightness is unpredictable, changing over periods of decades. Sometimes it outshines the other stars in the constellation, sometimes it dims. It's the queen's erratic, twinkling jewel. Unlike the steady pulse of a distant red giant, Gamma Cassiopeia's changes are due to its own tumultuous, adolescent behavior. Watching it over a lifetime, you might notice its subtly shift in prominence relative to its neighbors, a personal, slow-changing variable in the otherwise fixed pattern. Cassiopeia also sits in a rich part of the Milky Way, facing away from the galactic center. This means we are looking outwards into the galactic suburbs and beyond. But within her boundaries lie spectacular deep sky objects for the mind's eye to wander through. The most famous is probably the Pac-Man Nebula, officially NGC 281, a cloud of gas and dust where stars are forming, named for its resemblance to the video game character. There are also open star clusters like M52 and M103, sparkling little families of stars. To the naked eye, these are just faint smudges or areas of enhanced star density. But knowing they are there adds texture to the queen's domain. Her kingdom is not just 5 bright stars, but a vast, dusty, star-forming realm. Finally, there's a calming navigational note. The central V shape of Cassiopeia points roughly towards the Andromeda galaxy, our massive galactic neighbor. So the vain queen, in her eternal tumble, forever gestures towards her daughter's celestial fate, the chained maiden who became a galaxy. It's a subtle, familial connection written in star pointers, a story that ties the sky together in a slow, narrative web. Cassiopeia's lesson is gently whispered every night. Beauty is fleeting, vanity is folly, and the cosmos has a long, slow, and ultimately humorous memory. And now, let's look for the long, sinuous shape of the creature that coils around the northern pole, a dragon holding court in the slowest of ways. Winding its way between the two bears and curling around the Little Dipper of Ursa Minor, lies one of the largest constellations in the sky, but also one of the most subdued and challenging to trace. Draco, the dragon. It is not a constellation of brilliant beacons, but of faint, connecting stars that form a long, meandering, sinuous line. A celestial serpent sleeping amidst the circumpolar stars. To find it requires patience, averted vision, and a willingness to connect dots that seem barely there. It is the perfect constellation for a weary mind, a cosmic puzzle that encourages your gaze to soften and wander. Draco lacks the dramatic, bright asterisms of its neighbors. Its head is a small quadrilateral of 4 stars near Hercules, and from there, its body curves elegantly around Ursa Minor before ending in a triangle of stars between the dippers. Thuban, a star in Draco's tail, holds a special, sleepy historical significance. Around 4,700 years ago, Thuban was the North Star. Because of the slow wobble of Earth's axis called precession, the celestial pole slowly traces a circle over a 26,000-year period. When the ancient Egyptians were building the pyramids, Thuban was the pivot of the heavens. It was their Polaris. Today, it is an unremarkable magnitude 3.6 star, sitting quietly in the Dragon's coils, a former monarch retired into obscurity. When you look at Thuban, you are looking at a relic of ancient skies, a star that once guided pharaohs and is now just another point in a winding, forgotten tale. The mythology of Draco is often tied to guardianship and feudal battles. In one Greek myth, it represents Ladon, the 100-headed dragon who guarded the golden apples in the Garden of the Hesperides. It was slain by Hercules as one of his 12 labors, and indeed, the constellation Hercules kneels nearby, as if in eternal victory. In another story, it is the dragon slain by the goddess Minerva and tossed into the sky, where it froze around the North Pole. Both stories speak of a formidable creature ultimately defeated and placed in the stars, not as a trophy, but as a permanent coiled fixture. Its positioning, wrapped around the celestial pole, gives it the appearance of a guardian of the axis mundi, the world's axis, forever frozen in its protective or entrapped spiral. Tracing Draco's full length is an exercise in celestial patience. On a clear, dark night, you can start at its head near Vega and slowly follow the chain of moderately bright stars as they weave past the Little Dipper. It requires letting go of the need for sharp, defined shapes and instead accepting a flowing, serpentine suggestion. The dragon doesn't shout, it whispers. Its form is more implied than explicit, a connect the dots for a relaxed mind. In urban skies, it might simply vanish, a ghost of a constellation only visible where the night is truly dark. This makes seeing the full Draco a special, quiet reward, a secret shape revealed only to those who wait and let their eyes adjust to the deep night. Within Draco's vast territory lie some gentle cosmic wonders. The most famous is perhaps the Cat's Eye Nebula, a planetary nebula, the gorgeous, glowing shroud of a dying sun-like star. Through telescopes, it appears as a small, bright, blue-green disk with complex concentric shells, like a cosmic onion or a feline eye. It is one of the most complex planetary nebulae known. But from our naked eye perspective, it is invisible, a hidden jewel in the dragon's coils. Knowing it's there adds a layer of depth. Even in this faint, sprawling constellation, there is intricate, beautiful death and transformation happening on a scale we can barely comprehend. Another sleepy fact, Draco contains several faint galaxies, including the Draco Dwarf, a small satellite galaxy of our Milky Way. It is a tiny, diffuse collection of stars bound by gravity to our own galaxy, orbiting it at a great distance. It is utterly invisible without powerful telescopes, a silent, shadowy companion to our spiral home. So this constellation, which seems like a simple winding pattern, is in fact a territory containing the ghosts of former pole stars, the glowing tombs of dead stars, and entire other galaxies hanging in the background. It is a lesson in hidden depth. Draco's eternal coil around the pole is the slowest of dances. It turns, night after night, century after century, never setting for northern observers, always maintaining its possessive curl around the axis of the sky. There is a deep, hypnotic stability in that. While Cassiopeia tumbles and Orion flees, Draco simply is a quiet, persistent presence, a faded guardian from older stories, content to sleep in its slow, eternal circle. It asks for nothing but a little patience from the observer. And as we leave the dragon to its rest, let's turn our attention to a constellation that embodies a different kind of myth, not of battle or vanity, but of transformation and a gentle, earthly presence with a sparkling secret at its heart. Let us drift now from the coiled dragon to a constellation of earthy, yet dreamlike, substance. Taurus, the bull. This is a constellation of the winter sky, a heavy, deliberate presence with a distinct V-shaped face and a glittering secret nestled on its shoulder. Taurus feels ancient, rooted in the earliest human stories of agriculture, fertility, and the heavens. It is not a constellation of frantic motion, but of patient, stoic presence, like a great beast lying down in a field under the stars. The most prominent feature is the Hyades cluster, which forms the bull's head. This V-shaped pattern of stars is one of the nearest open clusters to Earth, only about 150 light-years away. The bright, orange-red star Aldebaran marks the bull's furious eye. But here's the first gentle deception. Aldebaran is not part of the Hyades cluster. It is a foreground star, merely lying along our line of sight. It's a stellar imposter, a lonely giant that has parked itself perfectly in front of the starry family, adding its warm glow to the bull's visage. Its name comes from the Arabic for the follower, as it follows the Pleiades cluster across the sky. Aldebaran is another red giant, cooler and more evolved than our sun, shining with a calm, rusty hue that feels autumnal and soothing. But the true jewel of Taurus, the thing that has captivated humans for millennia, is the tiny, hazy patch on the bull's shoulder, the Pleiades or the Seven Sisters. To the naked eye, it appears as a small, tight knot of 6 or 7 faint stars, depending on your eyesight and sky darkness. Through binoculars, it blossoms into a stunning cluster of dozens of blue-hot, young stars, shrouded in a faint reflective nebula, the last remnants of the cloud from which they were born. The Pleiades are adolescent stars, only about 100 million years old, and they are sailing through space together. Their spectral blue light is often described as icy or diamond-like. Cultures worldwide have stories about them. 7 sisters, a hen with chicks, a group of maidens. In Greek myth, they were the daughters of Atlas, pursued by Orion, which is why the Hunter constellation seems to follow them eternally across the sky. There is a deep, universal tenderness associated with this little cluster. It feels like a fragile, precious brooch pinned to the shoulder of the night. A wonderfully sleepy fact about the Pleiades involves their missing sister. Most people see 6 stars, not 7. The myth explains that one sister, Merope, hid her face in shame for marrying a mortal. Astronomically, one of the stars, Pleione, is a variable star that can dip in brightness. But perhaps it's simply a test of perception and sky quality. Trying to count the 7 sisters is a classic, quiet stargazing activity. a personal challenge that connects you to every human who has ever squinted at that tiny, sparkling group and wondered. Taurus is also home to the location of one of the most important modern astronomical discoveries, though it is invisible to the eye, the Crab Nebula M1. This is the expanding remnant of a supernova that was observed and recorded by Chinese, Arabic, and possibly Native American astronomers in the year 1054 AD. It was so bright it was visible in daylight for weeks. Today, through a telescope, it is a faint, fuzzy, elongated cloud. But that cloud is the aftermath of a stellar cataclysm, a pulsar spinning at its heart, emitting beams of radiation. The violence is over. All that remains is a slow, beautiful expansion, a cosmic sigh frozen in time. The bull carries this ghost of a cosmic explosion in its territory, a reminder that even the most violent events fade into gentle, nebulous whispers over centuries. The mythology of Taurus is often linked to Zeus, who transformed himself into a magnificent white bull to abduct the Phoenician princess Europa, carrying her across the sea to Crete. It's a story of powerful, gentle deception and movement. In the sky, only the bull's front half is depicted. Its hindquarters are supposedly submerged in the celestial ocean, represented by a dim, watery region of the sky. This gives Taurus a sense of emerging, of being only partially revealed, forever caught in the act of rising from the mythical sea. Finally, there is a peaceful, cyclical connection. The sun passes through the constellation Taurus from mid-May to late June. In ancient times, this placed the Pleiades at heliacal rising, their first appearance before dawn, around the beginning of the agricultural season in the Mediterranean. They were a calendar in the sky, their reappearance signaling time to plow or sail. So, this glittering cluster was not just a pretty sight. It was an alarm clock for civilization, a gentle, reliable prompt from the cosmos. Taurus, then, is a constellation of layered calm. The warm, false eye of Aldebaran, the youthful sparkle of the sisters, the ancient echo of a supernova, and its role as a timeless, seasonal marker. It doesn't tell a story of drama, but of constant, reliable presence and cyclical renewal. And now, let's turn from the stoic bull to a constellation that represents the closest of human bonds, forever immortalized in a pair of bright, neighboring stars. High in the winter sky, not far from Orion's confident stride, shines a pair of bright stars that seem to hold a conversation with each other. This is Gemini, the twins, represented by the brothers Castor and Pollux. It is a constellation that speaks of kinship, duality, and the unbreakable bond that even death could not sever. Its story is less about epic adventure and more about intimate loyalty, a quiet testament to friendship and family that feels particularly comforting in the vast, cold expanse of the night. The two brightest stars, named for the twins themselves, are its defining feature. Pollux is the slightly brighter, a warm, orange-hued giant star. Castor, the other twin, is a fascinating cosmic secret. To the naked eye, it appears as a single white point of light, but it is, in fact, a complex system of 6 stars bound together by gravity, a sextuple star system. 2 pairs of binary stars orbit each other, and a third binary pair orbits the main quartet at a greater distance. It's a stellar family in an intricate, slow dance, all masquerading as one serene point. Knowing this adds a layer of hidden complexity to the simple paired lights. One twin is a solitary giant, glowing with the steady warmth of maturity. The other is a bustling, hidden community, a quiet frenzy of motion contained within a single pinprick of light. The myth of Castor and Pollux is a poignant story of love transcending mortality. They were sons of Leda, but had different fathers. Castor was mortal, the son of King Tyndareus, while Pollux was immortal, the son of Zeus. They were inseparable, adventuring together on the Argo and in other quests. When Castor was killed, the grief-stricken Pollux, who could not bear eternity without his brother, begged Zeus to let them be together. Zeus granted this wish, placing them side by side in the sky, or in another version, allowing them to alternate days between Olympus and the underworld. Thus, they became the constellation Gemini, forever united. This story of chosen togetherness, of shared fate, brings a human tenderness to the cosmos. The sky isn't just about gods and monsters. It's also about brotherly love. Gemini is also the radiant point for one of the year's most reliable meteor showers, the Geminids, which peak around mid-December. Unlike most meteor showers born from comet dust, the Geminids are associated with an asteroid, 3200 Phaeton, making them somewhat unique. On a good year, under dark skies, you can see dozens of meteors per hour streaking from near the constellation. Watching a meteor shower is the ultimate passive, sleepy astronomy. You simply lie back, let your gaze soften, and wait for those brief, silent scratches of light to etch themselves across your vision. The Geminids, originating from the twins, feel like quiet fireworks celebrating their eternal bond. A gentle astronomical fact: the sun passes through Gemini from late June to late July. This means that during those months, Gemini is invisible, lost in the solar glare, only to re-emerge in the eastern sky before dawn later in the year. Their annual disappearance and return mirrors the myth of the twins alternating between the heavens and the underworld. It's a subtle, cyclical echo of their story written into the mechanics of our solar year. Between the two bright stars lies a region rich with faint deep sky objects for the mind to wander to. The Eskimo Nebula, a planetary nebula that through a telescope looks like a face surrounded by a furry parka hood, resides here. So does the open cluster M35, a beautiful, sprawling collection of stars that can be glimpsed as a fuzzy patch with the naked eye under good conditions. These objects are like the twins' shared possessions, little treasures in their celestial domain. They don't dominate the view, but they are there, adding depth and texture for the curious, patient observer. Finally, there's a navigational calmness to Gemini. Along with bright stars from neighboring constellations like Auriga and Orion, Pollux and Castor form part of the winter hexagon or winter circle, a huge asterism that dominates the cold months. Finding one helps you find the others, creating a web of familiar lights in the high winter sky. It feels secure, like recognizing familiar landmarks on a long, dark walk. The twins, then, offer a dual comfort: the emotional warmth of their myth and the practical comfort of being reliable, bright guideposts in the seasonal sky. They remind us that even in the infinite, we seek and find pairs, mirrors, and companions. And from this close bond, we now turn to a smaller, fainter constellation that holds the echo of the most beautiful music ever played, now silent and remembered only in starlight. Nestled between the bright summer triangle stars lies a small, delicate constellation shaped like a parallelogram, Lyra, the Lyre. It is not grand or sprawling, but compact and humble, centered around one of the brightest stars in the northern sky, Vega. Lyra represents the instrument of the mythical musician Orpheus, whose music could charm beasts, stones, and even the gods of the underworld. Its story is one of sublime beauty, profound loss, and the silent echo of art that remains after the artist is gone. A deeply melancholic and soothing theme for a starry night. Vega is impossible to miss on a summer or autumn evening. It is a brilliant, blue-white star, the fifth brightest in the night sky. It spins so rapidly, once every 12.5 hours, that it is bulged at its equator, making it an oblate spheroid, a star shaped like a spinning top. This rapid rotation also makes it one of the most well-studied stars. But beyond the science, Vega has a serene presence. It is part of the summer triangle, anchoring that large, gentle geometric shape. 10,000 years ago, due to precession, Vega was the North Star, and in another 12,000 years it will be again. It is a star with a cyclical duty, a temporary pole star taking its long, slow turn at the axis. For now, it simply shines, a steady, cool blue beacon. The Lyre itself is formed by a small parallelogram of fainter stars hanging below Vega. It requires a bit more attention to see than the brilliant Vega itself. This tiny harp is the instrument that, in myth, Orpheus played with such skill that he could move all of nature. His journey to the underworld to retrieve his wife Eurydice is one of the great tragic love stories. He charmed Hades with his music, winning the chance to lead Eurydice back to the living world, only to lose her forever by looking back too soon. After his own death, his lyre was placed in the stars by Zeus. So when we look at Lyra, we are looking at the instrument that once played the most persuasive music in existence, now silent and frozen in the heavens. The music has stopped, but the instrument remains, a memorial to lost art and lost love. Within the confines of this small constellation lies one of the most famous and mysterious deep sky objects, the Ring Nebula M57. Through a telescope, it appears as a perfect, smoke-like ring, a tiny cosmic donut floating in space. It is a planetary nebula, the glowing remains of a sun-like star that shed its outer layers at the end of its life. The white dwarf remnant star shines at its center, illuminating the expelled gas. The Ring Nebula is often one of the first such objects amateur astronomers seek, and its near-perfect symmetry is breathtaking. But seen from our vast distance, it is also profoundly peaceful. It is not an explosion, but a gentle exhalation, a star slowly turning itself inside out over millennia to create a beautiful, ephemeral bubble. It is the final, quiet sigh of a star, captured and held in the lyre strings. Another sleepy point of interest is the double-double star Epsilon Lyrae. Near Vega, to the keen-eyed observer, it appears as two close stars. With even modest binoculars or a telescope, each of those two stars resolves into a pair, a binary system that is itself a binary. It's a cosmic Russian nesting doll, a quartet of stars in a complex gravitational dance. Resolving this system is a classic test of atmospheric stability and optical aid, a small, satisfying puzzle that reveals the hidden social lives of stars. Lyra also offers a gentle lesson in perspective. Vega is relatively close to us, only about 25 light-years away. The stars of the little parallelogram are much more distant, and the Ring Nebula is about 2,300 light-years away. So within this tiny patch of sky, we see a nearby brilliant star, a distant stellar family, and an incredibly faraway stellar ghost. It's a compact lesson in the layered depth of space, all contained within the shape of an ancient musical instrument. Finally, there's the music of the spheres, an ancient philosophical concept that the celestial bodies move in harmonic, inaudible proportions. While not scientifically accurate, the idea is a beautiful one. Lyra, as the literal instrument in the sky, symbolizes that concept. In the quiet of the night, if you let your imagination drift, you can almost hear the faint, ghostly strings of Orpheus's lyre, playing a melody so old and slow that it has become the very rotation of the heavens. It's a constellation that invites not just looking, but listening with the inner ear to the silent music of cosmic geometry and myth. And from this silent song, we turn to a much larger, more cumbersome figure. A hero whose constellation is as difficult to trace as his famous labors were to complete, a fitting final challenge for a drowsy mind. Now we come to one of the largest constellations in the sky, and yet one of the most elusive to clearly make out, Hercules. It sprawls across a vast area between Lyra and Corona Borealis, a region of relatively faint stars that requires a deliberate, patient effort to connect into the shape of the legendary hero, kneeling or standing triumphant. In many ways, finding Hercules is the final, quiet labor for the stargazer, a test of sky darkness and contemplative focus before sleep fully takes hold. The most recognizable feature within Hercules is not the hero's form, but a small, roughly spherical patch of fuzz known as the Great Globular Cluster M13. Visible to the naked eye under dark skies as a faint, cotton-like smudge, it is one of the brightest globular clusters in the northern hemisphere. Through a telescope, it resolves into a breathtaking sphere of hundreds of thousands of ancient stars, a beehive of suns packed into a space only about 145 light-years across. Its light has been traveling for over 25,000 years to reach us. Think of that. When that light began its journey, humans were painting in caves, and the last ice age was still waning. That tiny, soft glow is a message from the dawn of human history, a slow, collective twinkle from a city of stars older than our species. It's a profoundly humbling and calming sight. But what of Hercules himself? The constellation is traditionally depicted as an upside-down figure, a kneeling hero with a club in one hand and the slain lion of Nemea, represented by Leo, in the other. The key stars form a shape called the keystone, a trapezoid of 4 stars that represents his torso. From there, fainter lines of stars suggest his limbs. Tracing the full figure is an exercise in imagination and persistence. In light-polluted areas, he may simply be invisible, his form dissolved into the general murk of the Milky Way. This difficulty feels appropriate for the hero of the 12 labors. His celestial portrait is itself a labor to behold. The myths of Hercules are tales of immense strength and exhausting effort, of cleaning stables, capturing beasts, and performing impossible tasks. By the end, he is weary, poisoned by a shirt soaked in Hydra's blood, and ascends to Olympus in a funeral pyre. His place in the stars feels like a hard-earned rest. He is not depicted in action, but often in a moment of repose or victory. After his labors, he is finally still. There's a deep peace in that. The constellation captures not the struggle, but the exhausted relief after the struggle is over. A feeling anyone ready for sleep can understand. A gentle astronomical fact about Hercules. It contains the solar apex, the point in the sky toward which our sun and solar system are moving as they orbit the galactic center. We are sailing through space along with all the planets at about 230 kilometers per second, heading roughly toward a spot in Hercules. It's our ultimate collective destination, though we'll never arrive. So, while we lie still, our entire world is moving toward the constellation of the ancient hero. It's a slow, stately journey that adds a layer of silent motion to the static sky. Another curious object in Hercules is the planetary nebula NGC 6210, sometimes called the Turtle Nebula. It's a small, bright disk, the final shroud of a dying star. Compared to the grand, spherical community of M13, this is a solitary end-of-life event. Hercules contains both the incredibly dense, ancient community and the isolated, gentle death of a single star. Birth, life, and death on cosmic scales are all within his domain. Finally, there is something deeply satisfying about finally discerning Hercules on a clear, dark night. It's a victory of patient observation. You start with the keystone, then slowly, one faint star at a time, you build the limbs, the club, the head. It's a connect-the-dots puzzle with a very low-contrast image. Successfully tracing him feels like sharing in a quiet secret, like finally being able to read faint handwriting in the dark. It requires the perfect state for sleep. Relaxed focus, no straining, just letting the pattern emerge as your eyes adapt and your mind wanders. Hercules doesn't grab your attention. He earns it slowly, and once seen, he becomes a permanent, faint friend in the summer sky, a hero finally at rest, holding a tiny, ancient city of stars in his hand. From this grand, resting figure, we now pivot to a concept rather than a single hero, a belt of constellations that has dictated human destiny, calendars, and bedtime stories for millennia. We now drift from individual heroes and monsters to a broader, more pervasive concept etched across the sky: the zodiac. This is a belt of 13 constellations, though traditionally 12, through which the sun, moon, and planets appear to travel. It is the stage for our solar system's slow dance, a cosmic backdrop that has been endowed with profound meaning by astrologers and used as a practical calendar by astronomers for thousands of years. But stripped of predictions and personality traits, the zodiac is simply a beautiful, slow-moving carousel of constellations, a celestial parade that changes with the seasons, marking the passage of time with a gentle, inexorable rhythm. The word zodiac comes from the Greek for circle of animals, and indeed, most of its constellations are creatures. Aries the ram, Taurus the bull, Gemini the twins, Cancer the crab, Leo the lion, Virgo the maiden, Libra the scales, Scorpius the scorpion, Sagittarius the archer, Capricornus the sea goat, Aquarius the water bearer, and Pisces the fishes. The 13th, Ophiuchus the serpent bearer, is often omitted from traditional astrology but sits squarely on the ecliptic path. This menagerie in the sky has been recognized by cultures worldwide, though with different stories. The zodiac is humanity's first attempt to segment infinity, to put chapters in the year-long story of the sun's journey. Here's a sleepy, fundamental fact. You can only see the zodiac constellation opposite the sun. When the sun is in Taurus, for instance, Scorpius is visible at night. The constellation the sun occupies is lost in its blinding glare. So the night sky reveals the zodiac in a 6-month offset. Your star sign is actually the constellation the sun was in on the day you were born, which is why you never see it on your birthday. It's up during the day. There's a quiet irony in that. The sign we identify with is the one hidden from us, a cosmic secret we carry. The precession of the equinoxes adds another layer of slow, dreamy change. Because of Earth's wobbling axis, the position of the sun against the backdrop of stars on the first day of spring slowly shifts. About 2,000 years ago, when the zodiac was formalized in the Western tradition, the sun was in Aries at the spring equinox. Today, it is in Pisces and will eventually drift into Aquarius, hence the much-discussed Age of Aquarius. This shift happens at a rate of about one constellation every 2,150 years. The astrological signs have thus drifted almost a full sign out of alignment with their original constellations. It's a disconnect that happens over millennia, a slow, silent slippage between the map and the territory, a testament to the patient, relentless ticking of cosmic clocks. Each zodiac constellation has its own beauty and stories, many of which we've touched on. But consider Libra, the scales. It is the only inanimate object in the classical zodiac. Originally, its stars were seen as the claws of Scorpius. The Romans later separated them to represent the scales of justice, associated with the autumn equinox when day and night are balanced. Its two brightest stars are named Zubanel Janubi and Zubanescamali, meaning the southern and northern claw, fossil names hinting at its earlier identity. Libra feels like an afterthought, a borrowed pattern given new meaning, a quiet reminder that even our celestial symbols are not fixed, but evolve with our cultures. The path of the zodiac, called the ecliptic, is also the highway for the planets. This is why you'll only ever see Venus, Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn in or near a zodiac constellation. They're slow wanderings. Planet means wanderer in Greek. Add a variable, living element to the fixed starry backdrop. Watching a bright Jupiter slowly move from one zodiac star pattern to another over weeks and months is one of the most calming activities in astronomy. This change, but at a pace that feels natural, unhurried, almost lazy. A final, gentle thought. The zodiac imposes a human narrative on a purely geometric phenomenon. The stars have no connection to our personalities or futures, but the human urge to find stories and patterns, to see a crab, a lion, or a pair of fish in random dots, and to believe those patterns reflect our lives, is a powerful, universal comfort. It makes the vast, impersonal universe feel intimate, designed, meaningful. Whether or not it's true, the zodiac is a beautiful, ancient bedtime story we tell ourselves about our place in the cosmos. It's a lullaby of connectedness. And now, leaving this broad belt, we return to a specific heroic story connected to several figures we've already met, the rescuer in the great family drama of the northern sky. Our gaze now settles on a hero caught in a moment of decisive action, forever immortalized in a somewhat obscure pattern of stars. Perseus. Located in the rich Milky Way between Cassiopeia and Taurus, Perseus is the rescuer of Andromeda, the slayer of Medusa, and a key player in the sprawling celestial family saga. His constellation is not the brightest, but it holds a compelling directness, a figure often depicted holding the severed head of the Gorgon in one hand and a sword in the other, forever in the act of his greatest triumph. The most striking feature in Perseus is not its overall shape, but a remarkable variable star, Algol, the demon star. Algol marks the blinking eye of Medusa in Perseus's hand. Every 2.86 days, like clockwork, Algol's brightness dips noticeably for about 10 hours. Ancient cultures saw this as the winking of a monstrous eye. We now know Algol is an eclipsing binary system, two stars orbiting each other, and from our viewpoint, the dimmer star regularly passes in front of the brighter one, causing the wink. It was one of the first variable stars discovered and remains one of the easiest to observe. There's something deeply satisfying about its regularity. In a sky that seems eternal and unchanging, Algol offers a predictable, gentle pulse, a cosmic heartbeat you can set your watch by, a slow, rhythmic blink that has continued for millennia. Perseus's myth is one of divine aid and swift, clean action. Sent on a seemingly suicidal quest to fetch the head of Medusa, whose gaze turned men to stone, he was given tools by the gods. Winged sandals from Hermes, a polished shield from Athena, a helmet of invisibility from Hades, and a sword. Using the shield as a mirror, he beheaded Medusa without meeting her eyes. Later, he used the still potent head to rescue Andromeda by turning the sea monster Cetus to stone. His story is one of cleverness overcoming brute strength, of using reflection instead of direct confrontation. In the sky, he is poised near the chained Andromeda and the vengeful Cassiopeia, as if forever on the verge of completing his rescue. A wonderfully sleepy deep sky object resides within Perseus, the double cluster. Located between Perseus and Cassiopeia, these two open star clusters, NGC 869 and NGC 884, are visible to the naked eye as a single, elongated fuzzy patch in a dark sky. Through binoculars, they explode into a spectacular pair of glittering stellar jewel boxes. Each cluster contains hundreds of young, hot, blue stars. They are not physically related but happen to lie along the same line of sight in our local spiral arm. Gazing at them feels like looking at a double handful of diamonds spilled on black velvet. Their light is ancient, but the stars themselves are cosmically young, a beautiful juxtaposition. Perseus also lies in the direction of the Perseus arm of our Milky Way galaxy, one of the galaxy's major spiral arms. We are looking out along a lane thick with stars, gas, and dust. This is why the region is so rich in clusters and nebulosity. When you look at Perseus, you are gazing down a long corridor of our galactic neighborhood, a street lined with stellar families and nurseries. It gives the constellation a sense of depth and place within the larger structure of our island universe. Another gentle point of interest is the annual Perseid meteor shower, one of the most beloved, which peaks around August 12th. The meteors appear to radiate from a point in Perseus. The shower is caused by debris from Comet Swift-Tuttle. Watching the Perseids is a timeless summer ritual. Lying back and seeing those swift streaks of light originating from the hero's constellation feels like watching the aftermath of his adventures. Sparks flying from his sword or sandals as he flies through the heavens. The meteors are silent, fleeting, and utterly democratic, available to anyone who looks up. Finally, Perseus serves as a celestial connector. A line from the bright star Capella in Auriga through the middle of Cassiopeia's W points roughly to Merphak, the brightest star in Perseus. Merphak itself is surrounded by a loose cluster of stars, adding a subtle glow to the region. Finding Perseus often involves using these brighter neighbors, making it feel like a hidden gem discovered through celestial wayfinding. His story, too, connects the other characters. He is the son of Zeus and Danae, the husband of Andromeda, the grandson of the vain Cassiopeia. He is the knot that ties the familial drama together. In the quiet night, Perseus is not a solitary hero, but part of an extended, starry family, forever holding his grim trophy and standing guard. And from this guardian, we look to the loyal companions who follow the greatest hunter of them all. Faithfully trailing behind the imposing figure of Orion, close to the horizon in winter, shine two constellations that embody loyalty. Canis Major, the greater dog, and Canis Minor, the lesser dog. They are the hunting companions of the celestial hunter, and their brightest stars are so luminous they dominate their corners of the sky. Their story is simple, uncomplicated by the complex dramas of gods and heroes. It is a story of companionship, of following a master, of being the brightest beacon in the night. A soothing, straightforward narrative under the stars. Canis Major is home to the single brightest star in our night sky, Sirius, the dog star. Its name comes from the Greek for scorching or glowing, and it lives up to that title. On a clear winter night, Sirius is unmistakable, a dazzling, diamond-white point that often flickers intensely with rapid flashes of color due to its low position in the sky and the turbulent atmosphere it shines through. This intense twinkling has inspired countless stories and a fair bit of UFO reports. But Sirius is more than just a pretty light. It is a binary star system. The star we see, Sirius A, is a main sequence star about twice the mass of our Sun. Its faint companion, Sirius B, is a white dwarf, the dense, Earth-sized corpse of a star that has already died. They orbit each other every 50 years. Sirius B was the first white dwarf ever discovered, a triumph of prediction and observation. So, that brilliant, placid-looking point of light is actually a pair, a vibrant primary and a tiny, incredibly dense ghost, locked in a slow half-century dance. The myth of the dogs is straightforward. They are Orion's loyal hunting hounds. Canis Major, with Sirius, is often depicted as a leaping dog. Canis Minor, with its bright star Procyon, is a smaller dog following behind. Procyon's name means before the dog, because in the Mediterranean, it rises just before Sirius. These dogs have no tragic fate, no complex backstory. They simply are. Their presence in the sky reinforces Orion's identity as the hunter and adds a layer of domesticity to the grand celestial mythos. Even gods and heroes, it seems, need pets. A sleepy, beautiful fact about Sirius involves its cultural footprint. Its heliacal rising, its first appearance in the dawn sky after a period of invisibility, coincided with the flooding of the Nile in ancient Egypt. It was therefore a star of immense practical importance, a celestial herald of renewal and fertility. The Egyptians associated it with the goddess Sopdet. Its brilliance and timing made it a clock and a calendar, its annual return marking the new year. So this dog star was once watched with the anxious hope of an entire civilization, a sign that life would continue. Today, we just see a bright star, but it carries that deep history of human reliance on the skies. Canis Major isn't just about Sirius. Contains several beautiful open clusters. M41, for example, is a lovely cluster of stars about 4 degrees south of Sirius, visible as a fuzzy patch with the naked eye under good conditions. Through binoculars, it resolves into a glittering collection of dozens of stars. It's like a handful of glitter scattered near the dog's paw. These clusters are stellar families, much younger than Sirius, adding generational depth to the constellation. Meanwhile, Procyon in Canis Minor is also a binary system with a white dwarf companion, making it a faint echo of the Sirius system. It's another bright, nearby star, the eighth brightest in the sky. Together with Betelgeuse in Orion, Sirius and Procyon form the nearly equilateral winter triangle, a dominant asterism of the cold months. Finding one leads you to the others, creating a web of brilliant, familiar lights that make the winter sky feel welcoming and structured, despite the darkness and cold. There's also a gentle irony in the dog's eternal chase. They follow Orion, but Orion is himself fleeing Scorpius. So the entire group, hunter and hounds, is in perpetual, slow retreat across the seasons. It's a cosmic procession of pursued pursuers, a slow, stately, and ultimately futile parade. Yet there's peace in that futility. The outcome is never in doubt. The cycle will simply repeat next year. No one wins, no one loses. It just is. Finally, the sheer luminosity of Sirius is a constant. In the depths of winter, when nights are long, it is a steadfast companion, often the first star you see as twilight deepens. The steady, brilliant presence is comforting. It doesn't tell a complicated story. It just shines, the faithful dog of the sky, always there, always bright, asking for nothing but a glance. It is the night's nightlight, and from these loyal companions, we turn our attention to the object of the great celestial rescue, a princess chained not to a rock, but to a realm of distant suns. Now we come to a figure of passive beauty and cosmic scale, Andromeda, the chained maiden. Stretched across a considerable portion of the autumn sky, she is part of the great mythological family we've been visiting, daughter of Cepheus and Cassiopeia, rescued by Perseus. But her constellation holds a secret far grander than her myth, a secret that is the most distant object most human eyes can see without aid. Andromeda is a bridge between intimate ancient stories and the staggering, mind-numbing vastness of the universe. The constellation itself is a long, relatively faint line of stars extending from the Great Square of Pegasus. It can be challenging to trace the full figure of a woman in chains, but the line of stars is distinctive once found. The brightest star, Alpheratz, is actually shared as a corner of the Great Square, linking Andromeda to the winged horse, Pegasus. This sharing of a star feels like a subtle celestial hint at their connected stories. Pegasus was born from the blood of Medusa, slain by Perseus, Andromeda's rescuer. The sky is a web of these gentle connections. But the true crown jewel of Andromeda is not a star, but a faint, elongated smudge of light located near the star New Andromedae. This is the Andromeda Galaxy M31. To the naked eye under a dark sky, it appears as a small, fuzzy oval, like a distant cloud that never moves. This soft, ethereal patch is our neighboring spiral galaxy, a city of roughly 1 trillion stars, over 2.5 million light-years away. The light entering your eye from that smudge has been traveling through space since before the genus Homo walked the Earth. You are seeing another island universe as it was when light began its journey toward us. It is the most distant, permanent thing a human can see without technology. Contemplating that faint blur is one of the most humbling and calming experiences in stargazing. All human history, all our triumphs and tragedies, has occurred in the time it took that light to reach us. It puts our tiny stories into a breathtaking, quiet perspective. The myth of Andromeda is one of passive suffering and eventual rescue. Chained to a rock as a sacrifice to appease the sea monster Cetus, she is the epitome of the damsel in distress. But in the sky, she is forever linked to her savior, Perseus, and her vain mother, Cassiopeia. There's a tragic dignity to her position. She is not active, but central. Her fate catalyzes the action of others. In a way, her constellation mirrors this. Its stars are not the brightest, but they lead the eye to the galaxy, the true treasure. A wonderfully sleepy fact about the Andromeda galaxy is that it is on a collision course with our own Milky Way. But collision is a dramatic word for a process that will take billions of years and is more like a slow, stately merger. The two galaxies are gravitationally drawn together and will eventually combine into one larger elliptical galaxy. This event, however, is so far in the future that it holds no alarm, only a strange, distant comfort. Even the largest structures in the universe are moving in slow, predictable dances. Nothing is static. Everything is in gentle, inevitable motion over timescales that make our concerns feel wonderfully small and temporary. Andromeda also contains other, fainter galaxies for telescope users, like its satellite galaxies M32 and M110. These are dwarf galaxies bound to M31, much like the Magellanic Clouds are bound to our Milky Way, so that one fuzzy patch is the heart of its own small galactic group, a local empire of stars. It's a system within a system, a reminder that complexity exists at every scale. Finding the Andromeda galaxy is a classic stargazing milestone. One common method is to star hop from Cassiopeia. The rightmost V of the W points like an arrow directly toward it. This act of using a bright, familiar constellation to locate a faint, profound object is a satisfying ritual. It feels like following a signpost to the edge of the known universe, a quiet adventure you can undertake from your backyard or window. Finally, there is a deep peace in knowing that galaxy is always there. On any clear, moonless autumn or winter night, you can find it. It is a constant. Wars have been fought, civilizations have risen and fallen, and that gentle smudge of 1 trillion suns has remained, unchanged in our sky, a silent witness. Andromeda the maiden may be chained in myth, but Andromeda the galaxy is a beacon of cosmic permanence and slow, majestic change. It invites not frantic wonder, but a slow, deep breath of perspective. And from this chained maiden, we look to the creature born from the blood of her rescue, the winged horse that symbolizes freedom and poetic flight. Sprung from the mythos of Perseus's great deed, we now encounter a constellation that symbolizes pure, unburdened freedom. Pegasus, the winged horse. Its most striking feature is not a horse's shape, but a large, nearly perfect square of 4 moderately bright stars known as the Great Square of Pegasus. This asterism is one of the most recognizable landmarks in the autumn sky, a vast, empty frame that seems to hold the darker sky within it. Pegasus feels less like a detailed figure and more like a concept, a sense of soaring possibility etched in geometry and starlight. According to myth, Pegasus sprang from the blood of the Gorgon Medusa when Perseus beheaded her. The horse was later tamed by the hero Bellerophon, who rode him to defeat the Chimera. But after Bellerophon's pride led him to attempt to fly to Olympus, Zeus sent a gadfly to sting Pegasus, causing Bellerophon to fall back to Earth. Pegasus alone completed the journey, earning a place in the stables of Zeus and later, a place in the stars. So, Pegasus represents a power that can be briefly partnered with but never truly owned, a force of inspiration and ascent that ultimately belongs to the heavens themselves. The Great Square is deceptively large. It covers an area of sky about 15 degrees on each side. You could fit your outstretched hand within it with room to spare. On a dark night, the square appears almost empty, a vast black pool framed by its four corner stars. Alpheratz, shared with Andromeda, Scheat, Markab, and Algenib. This emptiness is an illusion. The area within is just as rich in faint stars as any other, but the contrast with the bright corners makes it seem like a void. Gazing into the Great Square on a clear, dark night can induce a wonderful, slightly dizzying sense of depth, as if you're looking into a bottomless well of space. A sleepy and charming fact: one of the stars in the square, Scheat, is a variable red giant. Its brightness changes irregularly over periods of months, pulsating as it nears the end of its life. So, one corner of this perfect geometric frame is actually a gently breathing, dying star, adding a subtle, living imperfection to the seemingly rigid shape. Perfection in the cosmos, it seems, is always temporary. Pegasus is also home to a notable globular cluster, M15, located near the horse's nose, or, depending on the depiction, his front leg. It's another dense, spherical swarm of ancient stars, similar to M13 in Hercules, though slightly fainter. Through binoculars, it appears as a fuzzy star. Knowing it's there adds a point of condensed, ancient history to the constellation of the mythical young horse. A reminder that even symbols of new beginnings fly amidst the oldest structures in the galaxy. The constellation's connection to water is intriguing. In some depictions, Pegasus is associated with the creation of springs. The myth says that where his hoof struck the ground on Mount Helicon, the Hippocrene spring burst forth, a source of poetic inspiration. In the sky, Pegasus lies near several watery constellations: Pisces, Aquarius, and Cetus. He seems to be flying above or through a celestial sea. This association with both air and water gives him a fluid, dreamlike quality. He is not bound to Earth. Finding Pegasus is often the first step to finding many other autumn constellations. The Great Square is a massive anchor. From it, you can find Andromeda's chain, the constellation Pisces, and the watery realms of Aquarius. It acts as a grand foyer to that entire region of the sky. There's a comforting navigational logic to it. You can't get lost if you can find the square. Finally, the image of the winged horse offers a perfect metaphor for the drifting mind seeking sleep. Pegasus represents imagination unbound, the ability to rise above the mundane and travel on currents of thought and dream. His constellation, anchored by that immense, empty square, doesn't force a detailed image upon you. Instead, it provides a framework, a window within which your own mind can wander and soar. You are not told what to see. You are given space to imagine the horse, the flight, the journey. In the quiet of night, Pegasus is less a constellation and more an invitation. to let your thoughts take wing, to drift on the silent, starry winds, and to find rest in the boundless freedom of the sky. And from this symbol of airy freedom, we now dive deep into the opposite element, to the monstrous, sleepy denizen of the celestial sea. From the soaring freedom of the winged horse, we plunge into the deep, slow currents of the celestial sea to find Cetus, the sea monster or the whale. This is a vast, sprawling constellation of the southern sky, largely composed of faint stars that weave a shape as elusive and fluid as the creature it represents. Cetus is not a dramatic, sharp-featured beast. It is a looming, patient presence, a leviathan of the starry ocean, forever linked to the myth of Andromeda but content to drift in its own slow, cosmic depths. Cetus is one of the largest constellations, but its stars are generally modest. Its most famous feature is the variable star Mira, the wonderful. Discovered in 1596, Mira was the first known variable star other than Novae. It is a pulsating red giant whose brightness changes dramatically over a period of about 332 days. At its peak, it can become easily visible to the naked eye. At its minimum, it vanishes from sight even through small telescopes. This slow, rhythmic breathing, a star swelling and shrinking over the course of a year, is one of the most gentle, predictable pulses in the heavens. Watching for Mira's return to visibility is a patient astronomer's ritual, a quiet celebration of cyclical change. It's the heartbeat of the whale. In the myth of Perseus and Andromeda, Cetus is the monster sent by Poseidon to ravage the coast of Ethiopia, a threat that could only be appeased by sacrificing the princess. It is the engine of the drama, the mindless force of nature that sets the story in motion. Yet, in the sky, it is not depicted in a ferocious pose. It is often shown as a whale-like creature, its body a long serpentine curve of faint stars. There's a disconnect between its fearsome mythological role and its calm, faint celestial depiction. It feels less like an active terror and more like a dormant giant, a sleeping behemoth of the deep sky. A wonderfully sleepy fact: Cetus lies in a region of the sky away from the dense plane of the Milky Way. This means we are looking out of our galaxy into intergalactic space. As a result, Cetus is a treasure trove for faint galaxies, though they are far beyond naked eye visibility. It contains the spiral galaxy M77, an active galaxy with a supermassive black hole at its core. So, while the constellation appears as a faint, watery beast, its territory looks out into the deep field toward other island universes. The sea monster guards a gateway to the cosmic deep. The constellation's brightest star is Difta, also called Deneb Kaitos, marking the tail of the whale. It's an orange giant star, stable and unassuming. Another star, Tau Ceti, is of great interest to those dreaming of other worlds. It is a sun-like star only about 12 light-years away and is known to have a debris disk. It has been a prime target in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and is often featured in science fiction. Tau Ceti is faintly visible to the naked eye under good conditions. Gazing at it, you are looking at one of our nearest stellar neighbors, a sun that could very well host its own planets, a gentle prompt for dreams of distant, peaceful worlds. Cetus also borders other watery constellations: Pisces, Aquarius, Eridanus, the river. It seems to swim in a whole sector of the sky dedicated to aquatic themes. This area was known to ancient astronomers as the Sea, a region of fainter, more diffuse constellations representing the primordial waters. Cetus is the largest inhabitant of this quiet, dark celestial ocean. Navigating this region requires patience, as the stars are subtle and the patterns less bold. It's a part of the sky that rewards a reclined, relaxed gaze rather than active searching. Finally, there is a deep tranquility associated with whales and great sea creatures. They move slowly, live long lives, and sing songs that travel for miles through the ocean depths. Cetus, the constellation, embodies this. It is not frantic. It is ancient, vast, and slow-changing. Its key star, Mira, breathes with a yearly rhythm. Its form is suggestive rather than definitive. It asks you to fill in the blanks with your imagination, to see the great beast swimming through the starry deep. In the quiet of night, Cetus feels less like a monster and more like a guardian of the deep sky, a sleepy, colossal presence whose slow movements and long breaths are a lullaby for the cosmos. And from this creature of the deep, we rise to meet a figure carrying the essence of life itself, water, in an endless, gentle pour. We now turn to a figure not of beast or hero, but of elemental service, Aquarius the water bearer. This large, faint constellation of the zodiac sprawls across an unremarkable patch of the southern autumn sky. It lacks brilliant stars or a striking shape, often depicted as a man pouring a stream of water from a jar. But within its modest appearance lies a deep connection to cycles, renewal, and the gentle, life-giving flow that sustains both myth and science. Aquarius is the constellation of slow, perpetual offering. The pattern of Aquarius is notoriously difficult to trace. Its stars are of similar, medium brightness, forming a vague, Y shape that is said to represent the water jar and the flowing stream. The water is often depicted as flowing south into the mouth of Piscis austrinus, the southern fish, whose bright star Fomalhaut shines below. Finding Aquarius often involves starting with the great square of Pegasus and looking southward for a scatter of unassuming stars. It's a constellation that doesn't demand attention. It quietly exists, performing its eternal, thankless task. The myth of Aquarius is commonly associated with Ganymede, the beautiful Trojan prince who was carried to Olympus by Zeus in the form of an eagle, represented by the constellation Aquila, to become the cupbearer to the gods. He pours not wine, but nectar, or in the celestial version, water. Another, older association links him to the Babylonian god Ea, Lord of the Waters. This connection to life-giving fluid is universal. In the sky, his poured water feeds the fish, symbolizing a cycle of sustenance. There's a calm, purposeful rhythm to this image, an endless, measured pour that never fills the vessel and never runs dry. A sleepy and profound fact: the point in the sky known as the radiant of the annual Eta Aquariid meteor shower lies within this constellation. This shower, which peaks in early May, is caused by debris from Halley's Comet. These swift, often long-trailed meteors appear to stream from near the water jar. It's as if the water-bearer's jug is sprinkling not just water, but tiny, fiery bits of one of history's most famous comets across our atmosphere. Watching these meteors is like witnessing the gentlest of cosmic sprinklings, a silent, celestial watering of the Earth. Aquarius is also home to several notable planetary nebulae, the most famous being the Helix Nebula, NGC 7293. Often called the Eye of God or the Cosmic Eye, It is one of the closest and largest planetary nebulae to Earth. Through a telescope, it appears as a large, faint, ring-shaped cloud. It is the final, beautiful exhalation of a sun-like star, now a white dwarf at its center. This nebula resides in the stream of water Aquarius pours. So, within that life-giving flow, there is also the gentle, glowing remnant of stellar death and transformation. Birth, life, death, and renewal are all metaphors contained in the water he bears. The constellation sits in what ancient stargazers called the sea, a watery region of the sky. It is surrounded by Pisces, Cetus, Piscis Austrinus, and Capricornus. This placement reinforces its aquatic nature. In an age without electric lights, this whole sector of the sky would have appeared as a dark, star-poor expanse, a vast celestial ocean. Aquarius stands at its center, the source from which it is filled. A gentle astronomical note. The sun passes through Aquarius from mid-February to mid-March. This period was once associated with the rainy season in the ancient Middle East, further cementing the constellation's link to water and fertility. Also, due to the precession of the equinoxes, the vernal equinox is slowly moving toward Aquarius, leading to the much-referenced Age of Aquarius. This is not an age of sudden change, but a slow, glacial shift in the sky's orientation that takes centuries. It's the slowest of ages, measured in stardust and planetary wobbles. Finally, the image of the water-bearer is inherently soothing. There is no conflict, no chase, no vanity, just a steady, generous pour. It speaks to the human need for sustenance, for cycles, for something outside ourselves that provides. In the quiet of night, Aquarius offers no drama, only the promise of flow. He is the constellation of quiet service, of nourishment, of the slow, inevitable return of the rains and the seasons. His water is a metaphor for time, for life, for the gentle, endless processes that carry us forward. And from this figure of peaceful flow, we turn to a constellation of fiery, regal power, but one that is often depicted in a moment of calm, majestic rest. We arrive now at a constellation of regal bearing and solar significance. Leo the Lion. Dominating the spring sky, it is one of the most easily recognizable zodiac figures, with a distinctive pattern that truly resembles the crouched profile of a lion. Its story is one of invincible strength, of a golden hide, and of a final, peaceful rest in the stars after a life of legendary labor. Leo feels solid, confident, and comforting in its bright, familiar shape. The most striking feature is the sickle, an asterism of 6 stars forming a backward question mark that represents the lion's head and mane. The bright, blue-white star Regulus marks the bottom of the sickle, the lion's heart. Its name means little king or prince, and it has been associated with royalty for millennia. Regulus sits almost exactly on the ecliptic, the sun's path, meaning it is frequently occulted, passed in front of, by the moon and occasionally by planets. This royal star being gently blotted out by our own moon is a slow, recurring celestial event, a silent eclipse that feels respectful rather than violent. The myth of Leo typically identifies it as the Nemean lion, the first labor of Hercules. This lion had an impenetrable golden hide and terrorized the region of Nemea. Hercules discovered his weapons were useless, so he wrestled the beast and eventually strangled it with his bare strength. He then used the lion's own claws to skin it, wearing the invincible hide as armor thereafter. The lion was placed in the sky by Zeus as a trophy of this great feat, so, in the heavens, Leo is not a ferocious attacker, but a memorialized trophy, a symbol of strength that has been overcome and now rests eternally. Its fierceness is in the past. Its present is one of quiet, stellar permanence. A wonderfully sleepy fact involves Regulus's speed. It is spinning extremely rapidly, completing a rotation in less than 16 hours. This causes it to be highly oblate, flattened at the poles and bulging at the equator. If it spun much faster, it would tear itself apart. So the heart of the lion is a star under tremendous centrifugal stress. Yet from our vantage point, it shines as a steady, calm point of light. The hidden turmoil of a rapidly spinning giant is rendered serene by distance. At the opposite end of the constellation, marking the lion's tail, is the star Denebola, whose name comes from the Arabic for tail of the lion. It is a young, hot, white star, much like Regulus, but without the regal pedigree or the ecliptic prominence. Between the head and the tail, the body of the lion is formed by a triangle of stars. The overall shape is so cohesive that many cultures independently saw a lion in these stars. It is a rare case of a constellation living up to its name with intuitive clarity. Leo is also rich in galaxies. It lies away from the dusty plain of the Milky Way, giving us a relatively clear window out into the universe. Within its borders lie the Leo triplet, a group of 3 interacting spiral galaxies, M65, M66, and NGC 3628. These are popular targets for amateur astronomers, appearing as faint smudges of light. They are tens of millions of light years away, yet they reside within the territory of the ancient lion. Contemplating these distant islands of stars adds a profound depth to the constellation. The lion's domain isn't just a flat drawing. It's a corridor into the deep universe. The sun passes through Leo from mid-August to mid-September. In ancient times, this period coincided with the hottest, most lion-like days of summer in the northern hemisphere, when the sun's strength was at its peak. The constellation's association with the solar heart of the year feels natural and powerful. Finally, there's a comforting solidity to Leo. It is not a constellation of faint connections or elusive shapes. It is there. The sickle is unmistakable. Finding it feels like meeting an old friend. In the spring, it rises high in the evening, a confident, majestic presence that seems to watch over the renewal of the earth. It embodies not the chaos of the hunt, but the calm authority that comes after a victory, the peaceful rest of the king of beasts. Leo doesn't ask for your attention. It simply has it, through the sheer elegance and brightness of its form. It is a lullaby of stellar certainty. And now we approach our penultimate stop. Not a figure from myth, but a collection of forgotten figures. The ghosts of constellations past, the dreams the sky has let fade. As we near the end of our starry journey, let us turn our attention not to the constellations that are, but to those that were. The sky is not a fixed museum display. It is an archive, and over the centuries, astronomers have edited its contents. Scattered across the celestial sphere are the ghosts of forgotten constellations, patterns that once told stories, honored patrons, or filled empty spaces, but which have since faded from official maps and common knowledge. These are the dreams the cosmos has let go of, the sleepy whispers of astronomical history. Most of these departed figures hail from the 17th and 18th centuries, a period when astronomers, empowered by telescopes and seeking patronage, began to populate the southern skies, newly visible to European explorers, and fill gaps in the northern ones with modern inventions. They created constellations like Globus Aerostaticus, the hot air balloon, honoring the Montgolfier brothers, Machina Electrica, the electrical machine, and Officina Typographica, the printing office. These were not myths, but tributes to human ingenuity. They were fleeting attempts to stamp the age of enlightenment and industry onto the ancient canvas. They didn't capture the human imagination in the way a dragon or a hero could, and so, like outdated technology, they were quietly retired. Perhaps the most famous of the extinct northern constellations is Argo Novis, the great ship of Jason and the Argonauts. It was so massive that the 18th century astronomer Nicolas Louis de Lacaille decided to break it apart for easier handling. He split it into 3 separate, smaller constellations: Carina, the keel, Puppis, the stern, and Vela, the sails. The star Canopus, the second brightest in the night sky, was once part of Argo's rudder. It now belongs to Carina, so the grand epic ship was dismantled in our star charts, though its mythological unity remains in the stories. Other lost constellations were political gestures. Frederici Honores, Frederick's Honors, was created to honor Frederick the Great of Prussia. Sceptrum Brandenburgicum, the scepter of Brandenburg, honored a German electoral dignity. These princely symbols shone briefly on star maps but could not withstand the test of time and international agreement. Their stories were too local, their appeal too temporal. The sky, it seems, resists being used as a billboard for earthly power. It favors the timeless over the timely. Then there were the purely practical and somewhat clumsy creations meant to fill space. Quadrans Muralis, the mural quadrant, an astronomical instrument, gave its name to the January quadrantid meteor shower, which still radiates from that area, though the constellation itself is gone. Cerberus, the 3-headed dog of Hades, was sometimes depicted in the hand of Hercules, but was never widely adopted as a separate figure. These half-formed ideas linger in the footnotes of celestial cartography. What is the sleepy lesson in these forgotten patterns? It is that our maps of the heavens are as human and as changeable as our maps of the earth. They reflect our cultures, our technologies, and our desires. The IAU's formal list of 88 constellations, established in 1922, is a snapshot, a consensus meant to bring order. But it required letting go of many previous ideas. The night sky is a palimpsest, a manuscript scraped clean and written over many times. The old stories are still there, hidden beneath the current lines. There is a gentle melancholy, but also a freedom in knowing that the constellations are not divine writ. They are a conversation between humanity and the cosmos, and the conversation evolves. The stars are constant, but the pictures we see in them are not. In another 1,000 years, perhaps our current constellations will seem quaint, and new ones will be drawn, telling the stories of a future age. For now, as we lie back and look up, we can remember these ghosts. In the dark spaces between the familiar patterns of Ursa Major and Leo, where our modern atlases show only empty sky, you can let your imagination resurrect Tyrannus the reindeer or Pomum Imperiale, the apple of the empire. It is a quiet, personal act of astronomical archaeology. These forgotten constellations remind us that the sky is ultimately a canvas for our wonder, and that wonder is allowed to change its shape over time. And with that thought of gentle impermanence, we arrive at our final destination. Not a constellation, but a state of being, as we prepare to fully drift into the quiet embrace of the cosmic night. We have traveled from the restless hunter to the circling bears, from the silent lyre to the forgotten ghosts of star charts past. We have connected dots into heroes, monsters, and animals, and peered into the faint smudge of a neighboring galaxy. We have listened to the slow pulse of variable stars and traced the grand, seasonal carousel of the zodiac. Now, as this journey across the starry dome nears its end, it is time to let go of the patterns, to release the need to find shapes and stories, and simply be present under the immense, quiet canopy. The final and perhaps most profound, sleepy fact about constellations is this: they are a threshold. They are the training wheels for our cosmic imagination. We start by seeing the pictures, the dipper, the lion, the cross. But with time and repeated, quiet looking, something else can happen. The lines between the constellations soften. The rigid asterisms dissolve back into the field of stars from which they came. You stop seeing a hunter and start seeing a rich, three-dimensional scattering of points of light, each at its own distance, each with its own story of nuclear fusion and ancient origin. The sky ceases to be a flat painting and becomes a deep, breathing volume of space. The constellations were the doorway. Now you are through it, floating in the ocean itself. Think of the light again. Every point you see is a sun. Many have planets. Some of those stars no longer exist, and their final light is only now arriving. Some are so young their planetary systems are still forming in dusty disks. You are receiving a simultaneous broadcast of the universe's entire history, births, lives, and deaths, all rendered into a silent, simultaneous sparkle. There is no past, present, or future in that light. There is only a timeless now of arrival. Your consciousness is the place where these ancient journeys end. Let the sense of scale wash over you, not as something frightening, but as the ultimate comfort. Your worries, your to-do list, the tiny anxieties of the day, they are all happening on a pale blue dot suspended in this immense, gentle blackness. The universe is not hostile. It is mostly quiet, mostly empty, and beautifully indifferent. That indifference is not coldness. It is space. It is room to breathe. It is permission to be small, to rest, to let go. The sheer size of it all makes our personal dramas feel both insignificant and precious. Unique, delicate flowers in an infinite garden. Now soften your gaze completely. Let your eyes lose their focus. Allow the individual stars to melt into a soft, luminous haze. Listen to the sounds of your own night, the distant hum of life, the rustle of leaves, your own breath. Imagine that breath synchronizing with the slow, ancient rhythms you've learned. The 332-day pulse of Mira, the 2.86-day wink of Algol, the 26,000-year wobble of Earth's axis. Your own heartbeat is part of a family of cosmic rhythms, from the subatomic to the galactic. The stories we told tonight, of vanity, loyalty, love, and rescue, they are not just written in the stars. They are written because of the stars. They are the eternal human response to the sublime. We look into chaos and we see order. We look into silence and we hear stories. This act of imagination is our gift back to the cosmos. By creating constellations, we built a ladder of myth to climb closer to the infinite. And now it is okay to put the ladder aside. So, wherever you are, as the world sleeps, know that above you, the great slow motions continue. Polaris patiently marks the north. The Big Dipper wheels on its handle. Orion, though hidden in some seasons, is always somewhere, forever mid-stride. And the light from Andromeda's trillion suns continues its long, silent fall onto our planet. There is nothing more you need to do, nothing more to find. Simply receive. Let the starlight, real or remembered, be a cool blanket on your mind. Let the vast, peaceful darkness be a balm. You are not separate from this cosmos. You are a part of it, made of the same star stuff, breathing the same ancient rhythm. The night sky is not out there. It is in here, in the quiet space behind your eyelids. Close your eyes now. Carry the soft glow of those distant suns with you into sleep. Let your dreams be as weightless and boundless as space itself. You have returned to the oldest pillow, the original lullaby. The universe is whispering, in a language of light and shadow, that it is okay to rest. It is all okay. The images begin to gentle now, like embers fading in a hearth. The sharp, brilliant points of Sirius and Vega dissolve into a warm, diffuse glow. The fierce outlines of the Scorpion and the Lion soften, their edges blurring into the velvety background. The great swirl of the Milky Way, once a river of diamonds, becomes a slow, misty current, carrying you along without effort. Feel the weight of your body settling, supported completely by the earth, which itself is a ship sailing the starry sea. Each breath you take is a tide, in and out, sinking with a rhythm far older than thought. The stories of gods and heroes are folding themselves away, like cherished books being closed and placed on a shelf. Their dramas are over, their lessons learned, leaving only a quiet, resonant hum of meaning. The black between the stars is no longer empty. It is full of potential, full of quiet, full of a peace so deep it has no need for sound or light. It is the peace of the seed in the soil, the peace of the deep ocean trench, the peace at the heart of a flame. It is your peace. Let the last conscious thoughts be sensations, not words. The coolness of the night air on your skin, the gentle pressure of where you lie, the distant, rhythmic sound of your own heart, a tiny, faithful star pulsing in the inner universe of your body. The boundary between you and the cosmos is an illusion. You are breathing stardust. You are warmed by a distant fusion reactor we call the sun. Your very atoms were forged in the hearts of long-dead stars. You are not under the night sky, you are of it. And as you sleep, you are not leaving it behind. You are returning to a state of unity with it, where time stretches and slows and all is calm. The voice that has guided you is fading now, blending into the ambient soundscape of the night. A cricket's chirp, a sigh of wind, the silent pulse of starlight. There is no more guidance needed. The path is gone. Only presence remains. You are here. The universe is here. That is all. That is enough. Let the darkness behind your eyelids become the deep space you've been exploring. Feel yourself drifting in it, weightless, timeless, safe. There are no more constellations to find, only the infinite, soft embrace of the cosmic night. Let go. The universe is holding you. It has been all along.